Being the son of an MMA legend comes with unmatched pressure. The spotlight follows you before you even step into the cage. Every move gets compared to your father's achievements. Every loss feels heavier because of the name on your back.
He's the furthest thing from it, and I'm happy to not be in business with him anymore.
Some handled it well and carved their own path. Others struggled under the weight and ended up casting shadows over the very legacies they tried to honor.
I said if he wins this fight, he can go pro.
From brutal assaults to embarrassing performances, these stories show what happens when expectations meet reality in the cruelest ways possible. Here are the sons of MMA legends who ended up damaging their father's hard-earned reputations. Raja Jackson came from fighting royalty. His father, Quinton Rampage Jackson, was a UFC light heavyweight champion and one of the most feared fighters of his era. Raja started his amateur career strong, going unbeaten and making his mark in the United Fight League, where his father served as an ambassador. The promotion gave Raja a platform, and Rampage was there to watch his son succeed. After Raja defeated Hastings McMillan at United Fight League 2, Rampage proudly announced that his son would turn professional. The future looked bright.
I said if he wins this fight, he can go pro.
But at UFL 3, Raja lost his professional debut to Steve Collins, and things began to spiral downward from there. What came next would shock the combat sports world and leave Rampage publicly condemning his own son. On August 23, 2025, Raja attended a KnockX pro wrestling event in California. He was sitting ringside, live streaming the show on his Kick channel. Earlier that day, pro wrestler Seiko Stu, whose real name is Stuart Smith, had smashed a beer can on Raja's head during a backstage encounter. Smith thought Raja was a fellow wrestler and was playing his character. He apologized multiple times once he realized Raja wasn't part of the show. They shook hands, and an agreement was made for Raja to get some payback during Smith's match that night as part of a scripted spot. What was supposed to be a planned wrestling bit turned into a nightmare. Raja entered the ring while Smith's back was turned, grabbed him, slammed him to the mat, and unleashed a barrage of punches. He threw 22 punches in total, with 18 landing directly on Smith's face. The wrestler was knocked unconscious, but Raja kept swinging. Security and other wrestlers had to pull him off. Smith was rushed to the hospital with serious injuries, including trauma to his upper and lower jaws, a laceration to his upper lip, a fractured maxilla bone, and the loss of several teeth. He spent days in critical condition before being released on August 31, 2025. The incident was live-streamed and went viral immediately, sparking outrage across the internet. Wrestling reporter Dave Meltzer called it maybe the worst thing he had ever seen in a ring. Knox Pro Wrestling Academy described the act as heinous and selfish, stating that nothing like this had happened in their 17 years of operation. They banned Raja from ever attending their events again. The Los Angeles Police Department opened an investigation the next day. What made this even worse for Rampage was how his son handled the situation. Raja hid details from his father and put the entire family at risk, based on threats they received online. Rampage cut off contact with Raja after learning the full story. He publicly stated that Raja dishonored his name and went against everything he told him to do. Rampage admitted that his son had suffered a concussion from sparring just days before the event and had no business being involved in anything physical. He also revealed that Raja wasn't supposed to be in that ring at all. Rampage called Raja's actions wrong and made it clear he wasn't going to lie for him. The former UFC champion even said his son should spend a little time in jail, do community service, attend anger management classes, and see a therapist. Rampage got his son an attorney and said he was waiting for an arrest warrant to be issued. He also mentioned that if the warrant came, he would turn Raja in himself. On September 18, 2025, nearly a month after the attack, Raja was arrested in Los Angeles on a felony assault charge. Bail was set at $50,000. The arrest confirmed what many already suspected. Raja had crossed a line that went far beyond sports or entertainment. Rampage made it clear that while he still loved his son, he was deeply disappointed and couldn't talk to him at the moment. The elder Jackson stated that he was dealing with attorneys and didn't know what the right protocol was for handling a son who hurt someone and put them in the hospital. He emphasized that everyone involved was wrong, but Raja was the most wrong. The beer can incident may have sparked the tension, but Raja took things way too far. For Rampage, a fighter who built his reputation on toughness and respect, watching his son become known for a cowardly attack on an unconscious man was devastating. Raja's MMA career, which had barely started, was now overshadowed by criminal charges and public disgrace. The incident didn't just hurt Raja, it put a stain on the Jackson name and reminded everyone that legacy can be destroyed faster than it's built. Crone Gracie. Speaking of destroyed legacies, Crone Gracie had an impossible standard to meet. His grandfather was Helio Gracie, the co-founder of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. His father, Rickson Gracie, is considered one of the best fighters of his generation, going 11-0 in his MMA career. Crone started training as a child and dominated the jiu-jitsu world. He became a two-time IBJJF world champion, a four-time Pan American champion, and in 2013, he won the ADCC Submission Fighting World Championship. By 2008, Crone held a record of 51 consecutive matches won by submission at high-level tournaments. His grappling credentials were undeniable. When he transitioned to MMA in 2014, expectations were sky-high. He fought in Japan for Rizin Fighting and went 4-0, submitting all of his opponents, including MMA veterans Hideo Tokoro and Tatsuya Kawajiri. In November 2018, the UFC signed him, and fans believed they were watching the next big thing. Crone made his promotional debut at UFC on ESPN1 in February 2019 against Alex Caceres. He won by rear naked choke in the first round and earned a Performance of the Night bonus.
Declaring the winner by submission due to a rear naked choke, Crone Gracie!
Everything seemed perfect. Then reality set in. At UFC on ESPN Plus 19 in October 2019, Crone faced Cub Swanson. Instead of using his world-class grappling, Crone chose to strike with Swanson, a decision that confused everyone watching. He lost by unanimous decision. The fight earned him a Fight of the Night bonus, but people were baffled. Why would a submission specialist refuse to take the fight to the ground, where he had a massive advantage? Even members of the Gracie family criticized him. His father, Rickson, and Uncle Relson both spoke out about the loss and questioned why Crone avoided grappling. After a 4-year layoff, Crone returned at UFC 288 in May 2023 to fight Charles Jourdain. He lost again by unanimous decision, and this time, the criticism was even harsher. UFC President Dana White said Crone came in very limited that night and described his performance as like coming out of a time capsule from 1995. White added that it was a tough way to try to win a fight these days. Fans and fighters alike roasted Crone on social media for refusing to evolve. On December 7, 2024, at UFC 310, Crone faced Bryce Mitchell. The fight was a disaster. Crone pulled guard repeatedly, a tactic that led to him getting dominated on the ground. Mitchell dropped brutal elbows on Crone until the referee stopped the fight in the third round. It was the first time Crone had been finished in his MMA career. The performance was so bad that fans flooded his social media with hateful comments. One called him a disgrace. Another said his fighting style was the worst in the UFC. Someone else joked that watching him get knocked out was entertaining. The backlash was relentless. Crone landed only 6 significant strikes in the entire fight, failed to complete a single takedown, and had just 2 seconds of control time before being knocked out. Mitchell later revealed that Crone nearly broke his arm with an armbar attempt, but even that moment of danger couldn't save the performance from being labeled a failure. On June 6, 2025, the UFC released Crone from his contract. His record in the promotion stood at 1-3. He fought just 4 times in 6 years, with his only win coming in his debut. At 37 years old, Crone's time in the big leagues was over. He had proven himself as one of the best grapplers in the world, but in MMA, he never adapted. He clung to outdated methods and refused to modernize his approach. His inability to evolve didn't just hurt his own career, it also brought criticism to the Gracie family name, a legacy built on innovation and dominance. Crone's failures reminded everyone that talent alone isn't enough if you refuse to grow with the times. Conry Gracie, and Crone wasn't the only Gracie struggling to live up to expectations. Conry Gracie, son of UFC pioneer Royce Gracie, faced similar challenges. Royce was the man who won the first ever UFC tournament in 1993 and went undefeated in his first 12 UFC fights. He became the only fighter to win 3 UFC tournaments and was the first inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. Conry had massive shoes to fill, and unlike most Gracie family members, he didn't have a storied career in competitive jiu-jitsu before trying MMA. He made his amateur debut in September 2017 and won by decision. Just 2 months later, Bellator signed him to a professional contract. Conry made his pro debut at Bellator 192 in January 2018. He lost by unanimous decision to Devin Brock. The loss was tough, but Conry bounced back. He defeated Ron Becker at Bellator 209 in November 2018, and then beat Oscar Vera at Bellator 295 in August 2019. His record improved to 2-2, and it seemed like he was finding his rhythm. Then everything stopped. Conry faced Trevor Gudda at Bellator 252 in November 2020. He lost by third-round knockout, and after that fight, his career went silent. He didn't compete again for 28 months. When he finally returned at Bellator 293 in March 2023, fans hoped to see improvement, but the long layoff didn't help. Details about that fight and his overall trajectory remained unclear, but what's certain is that Conry never became the contender people expected. By 2025, his professional record sat at 2-2, and his fighting career was effectively on hold. Instead of chasing titles, Conry shifted his focus to teaching Gracie Jiu-Jitsu around the world. The decision to step away from competition wasn't officially announced as retirement, but his actions spoke louder than words. Conry, like Crone, struggled to carry the weight of the Gracie name into the modern MMA era. Both men had incredible lineage and access to some of the best training in the world, yet neither could find lasting success in the cage. The Gracie family legacy was built on dominance and innovation, but these sons showed that genetics and a famous last name don't guarantee greatness. Their struggles highlighted the gap between jiu-jitsu excellence and well-rounded MMA success. For Conry, the decision to focus on teaching rather than fighting may have been the smartest move he ever made. Ryan Couture. Meanwhile, Ryan Couture dealt with his own version of legacy pressure. His father, Randy Couture, was a 2-division UFC champion and a Hall of Famer who competed at the highest level well into his 40s. Randy was known for his toughness, wrestling, and ability to defeat younger, bigger opponents. Ryan started his professional career in Strikeforce in 2010 and went 6-1 before the UFC absorbed the promotion in 2013. When Ryan joined the UFC, the timing couldn't have been worse. His father had just signed a deal with Spike TV to work as a coach on Bellator's Fightmaster reality show. UFC president Dana White was furious and banned Randy from attending UFC events, even if he tried to buy a ticket.
He's the furthest thing from it, and I'm happy to not be in business with him anymore.
White made it clear that Ryan wouldn't be punished for his father's decisions, but Randy would not be allowed to corner his son at UFC events. Ryan appreciated that White called him personally to explain the situation, but it still put him in an awkward position. He could have fought to have his father in his corner through the Athletic Commission, but he chose not to pick that battle. Ryan believed the situation would smooth over eventually, and if it didn't, life would go on. His father would still be a big part of his training camp, just not in the corner on fight night. Ryan made his UFC debut at UFC on Fuel TV 9 in April 2013 against Ross Pearson. He lost by second-round TKO. In his second UFC fight at UFC 164 in August 2013, he faced Al Iaquinta and lost by unanimous decision. After back-to-back losses, the UFC released him. Ryan's manager received a letter confirming the decision. The release wasn't surprising given the UFC's performance-based approach, but it still stung. Ryan had expected tough fights, and he got them. He later admitted that Iaquinta was tougher than he gave him credit for. Some believed Ryan was treated unfairly because of the tension between his father and Dana White, but Ryan himself said he was treated well and professionally during his time in the UFC. After his release, Ryan returned to smaller promotions and won 2 straight fights by rear naked choke in 2014. In July 2014, he signed with Bellator. He won his promotional debut against Tom Banasco by first-round submission and followed that up with another first-round rear-naked choke victory over Dakota Cochran at Bellator 135 in March 2015. Things were looking up, but consistency remained an issue. Ryan lost to Patricky Pitbull by first-round knockout at Bellator 148 in January 2016. He then lost to Goiti Yamauchi by first-round submission at Bellator 162 in October 2016. After a decision win over Haim Ghazali at Bellator 180 in June 2017, Ryan lost to Saad Awad by first-round TKO at Bellator 201 in June 2018. His final fight came at Bellator 209 in November 2018, where he defeated Ghazali again by unanimous decision. Ryan's professional record finished at 12-6. In July 2020, Ryan announced that he had been appointed CEO of Extreme Couture, the gym his father helped start. He also stated that his fighting career was most likely over. Ryan admitted he hadn't felt the itch to fight since 2018 and was happy to focus on running the business and teaching when time permitted. While Ryan's career wasn't a complete disaster, it fell short of the expectations that came with the Couture name. He fought for 3 major organizations and shared the cage with notable names, but he never became a top contender or earned a title shot. His story shows that even with access to elite training and a famous father, success in MMA requires more than just lineage. Ryan's decision to step away from competition and focus on the family business was mature and practical, but it also symbolized the end of the Couture fighting legacy in major promotions. Kevin Ferguson Jr. Then there's Kevin Ferguson Jr., better known as Baby Slice, who carried one of the most recognizable names in combat sports history. His father, Kimbo Slice, became a global sensation through backyard brawling videos on YouTube before transitioning to MMA. Kimbo fought in Elite XC, the UFC, and Bellator, becoming a massive TV draw wherever he went. His knockout power and larger-than-life persona made him unforgettable. Kimbo died of heart failure in June 2016 at just 42 years old. Just 2 months before his father's death, Kevin Jr. made his amateur debut and won by first-round knockout. The genetics were clear. Baby Slice had power in his hands just like his father. In July 2016, Bellator signed him to a professional contract, putting him on a major stage almost immediately. Baby Slice made his pro debut at Bellator 165 in November 2016 against Aaron Hamilton. He lost by second-round submission. It was a rough start, but he bounced back. He won his next 3 fights by first-round finishes, stopping DJ Griffin and submitting Fred Freeman and Devin Brock. His knockout power was undeniable, and fans started to believe he could carry on his father's legacy. Then the wheels came off. At Bellator 207 in October 2018, Baby Slice lost to Corey Browning by TKO. He tore his ACL during the fight, which forced him out of action for 12 months. When he returned at Bellator 232 in October 2019, he faced Craig Campbell and appeared to win by knockout in just 38 seconds.
So I decided to, get close to him and take it to the ground.
But the Mohegan Tribe Department of Athletic Regulation overturned the result to a no contest, citing strikes to the back of Campbell's head. Baby Slice was frustrated but rolled with it. He fought again at Bellator 253 in November 2020 against Kahim Murray and lost by decision. That was his last MMA fight. His professional record sat at 3-3 with 1 no contest. In early 2025, Baby Slice signed with Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship, which seemed like a perfect fit given his father's history in underground bare knuckle brawls. He was scheduled to debut against influencer Bryce Hall at Knuckle Mania 5 in January 2025, but he withdrew because of his schedule as a police officer and not being able to prepare properly. He was rebooked against Derek Perez at BKFC 80 on September 12, 2025. Fans were excited to see him finally compete in bare knuckle, but once again, the fight was canceled. Baby Slice didn't weigh in on the day before the event, and no explanation was given. The cancellation marked the second time in 2025 that his BKFC debut fell apart. At 34 years old with a modest combat sports record and back-to-back cancellations, Baby Slice's future in fighting looked bleak. He never found consistent success in MMA or boxing, And now his bare-knuckle career was stalling before it even started. While he didn't embarrass his father's name through criminal behavior or controversy, his inability to deliver on expectations left fans disappointed. Kimbo Slice was a fighter who always showed up and always brought the violence. Baby Slice struggled to do the same, and that contrast hurt the legacy more than any loss could. Marvin Eastman Jr. Finally, there's Marvin Eastman Jr., who took things to an extreme by trying to escape his father's shadow entirely. Marvin Eastman had 7 fights in the UFC and compiled an 18-15-1 record over his career. He faced big names like Quinton Rampage Jackson, Rich Franklin, Glover Teixeira, Vitor Belfort, and Alan Belcher. Eastman lost more than he won in the octagon, but he's remembered as a tough, durable fighter who competed at a high level. His son, Marvin Eastman Jr., wanted to follow in his father's footsteps, but the two had a falling out several years ago. Eastman Jr. left his father's gym and took 2 years away from the sport. When he returned, he made a drastic decision. He legally changed his fight name to Buster Nefarios, a name he made up out of thin air. He wanted to be judged purely on his fighting ability, not his father's legacy. Nefarios turned professional in 2013 and won his first 2 fights. Things were going well, and it seemed like his plan to forge his own path was working. Then he lost by TKO to Dustin Chevalier in September 2013. The defeat forced him to rethink everything. Nefarios realized his management team and support system weren't working. More importantly, he realized how much he needed his father. The only person who had ever helped him bounce back from a loss was Marvin Eastman. Nefarios swallowed his pride, sat down with his father, and had a difficult conversation. They worked through their issues, and Eastman became his head coach again. Nefarios admitted that his previous environment stunted his growth as a fighter. Going back to his father was like fine-tuning a Bugatti that had been driven by someone who didn't know how to control it. In March 2014, Nefarios signed with World Series of Fighting and made his promotional debut against Brenson Hansen at WSOF 9. He lost by unanimous decision. After that fight, Nefarios never competed again. His professional record finished at 2-4. Nefarios became a cautionary tale about pride and the importance of surrounding yourself with the right people. His attempt to distance himself from his father's name backfired, and by the time he realized his mistake, it was too late to salvage his career. While he didn't ruin his father's legacy through scandal or disgrace, his story shows how ego and poor decisions can derail a promising career before it ever gets off the ground. Which fighter's story surprised you the most? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section. And before you leave, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to MMA Rivals so you don't miss the next ones.